What's up, beautiful people? We are here today with Kimberly, Miguel, Mullen, and we're going to talk about some dance because I love to dance, and I've just recently discovered how transformative and powerful it can be when you combine dance with ritual, something that we did in Sedona, but we'll get into that. But that's kind of the space that you've really dedicated your life, that bridge between dance is just pure expression of enjoyment and driving it deeper, making it more of an integrated part of your life, your spirituality, all of that. So welcome to the show. Let's dig in and talk about some fun stuff.
Thank you, Aubrey. It's really incredible to be here in Austin, and thank you for having me.
For sure. So give us a little bit of your background. How did you come into this space, and, where is the journey taking you?
Wow. Well, it's been about a 20-year journey, and just a little bit of my own fitness background. I grew up dancing, and then I grew up in a really...
What were you doing?
Jazz and tap.
Jazz and tap? Yeah. Moms love putting their kids in tap shoes, right?
I know. I was a little tapper, tapping around my house, driving everyone crazy. But eventually, all that rhythm and musicality that I learned as a tapper, came into play later on. I became a high-performance athlete. I played college volleyball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I grew up in a really small town, and sports was, the town was really revolved around sports. So I was a serious tomboy growing up and had all my boy cousins playing football with me and stuff like that. Yeah. So that was actually what got me out of my little small town. I went up to University of Oregon and played volleyball.
Well, we have a little thing called volleyball here. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but we might have to go in there and play a little bit.
Well, I don't know if I had the same vertical.
If I'm going to come dancing with you, then you got to step in and play some volleyball with me. It's only a fair trade.
We'll see. I don't know. My vertical leap isn't so good anymore.
Well, that's cool. Mine's awesome. So you just set me
the other
up.
day, I think I tried to serve the ball, and it just where's my power?
I don't believe you. That's it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
okay.
Sounds good.
So I ended up playing for a year for University of Oregon,
cool.
And ended up getting co-rookie of the year there and really excelled.
I seriously don't believe you now. You just, all those excuses are gone.
All right,
I saw you in there. You were stretching 10 minutes ago. You're still in prime condition.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, volleyball is a definite, it's a whole other world, So I would like to see if I still got it. So
all right.
I
Sounds good.
look forward to it. And then I followed a coach up to Portland State University from University of Oregon, my mentor there, and discovered the Caribbean dance department there.
At Portland State.
At Portland
Who would have
State.
thought?
I know.
It's the farthest place from the Caribbean in the U.S.
Exactly. Well, there's two of the top academic informants on the topic at Portland State University, and so I was lucky to apprentice under them, and I just got really deeply connected to the culture, the history, the politics, and then once I started traveling there, I discovered dancing, dance hall, soca, calypso, salsa, rumba, samba, all those great forms that these cultures in the Caribbean use as their culture expression. So,
what's the one that they do in the Bahamas? It's like a Joncanoe.
Joncanoe,
yeah.
It's for Carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Everyone dresses up in costumes and goes out into the streets, and it's very lively.
I was there in the Bahamas for that. That was
really
fun. Yeah.
Cool.
People parading around and having a blast. Well, cool. So that you just kind of fell into that.
I did.
You were going for volleyball, and then that just kind of piqued your interest, and then that's been something you've dedicated your life to since.
Exactly. And really what I was looking for, I got to the point as an athlete that I was looking for something artistic, creative, and spiritual, and also intellectual. So it was a perfect launching pad as an athlete to go into Caribbean dance, because in my dance classes, I always preach too that dancers are high performance athletes.
No doubt.
So it was really just a natural progression into this form, and who knew, that I was going to be doing this 20 years later as my career and profession. And, I've been on a global tour this year, going on a year and a half.
Cool.
So
what would you say? What would you say to somebody who doesn't have dance at all a part of their life? Maybe when they're hammered, they shake it a little bit, but dance is, what are they missing out on?
Joy.
Yeah, definitely.
And ultimate bliss. It's really, this particular form is really special because it is a cultural art form, and so it's more than just a physical expression. You're connecting to your community. We dance to live drumming, so we're infusing our bodies with the frequencies of the rhythms. And so when people leave the dance class, they're not only getting an incredible workout, but they're also maybe seeing some personal breakthroughs, and connecting in a mind, body, spirit way that maybe they've never felt before. A lot tapping into, emotions, moving energy. So it does become kind of transcendental. And a lot of people are like, Kimberly, I can't, I don't know why it feels different, when I'm doing dance than other, fitness modalities. But I think dance is a really good way to bring all of those elements together. And I think more people are starting to realize that.
Yeah, I think for me, I've had some time to reflect on that since I just did the Dancing Freedom with Ashley in Sedona, and that was the first time I did that. And for those who want to know what that is, basically you put on a blindfold and you're out there with a bunch of different people, but you're all blindfolded, so you can't see each other. And then they put on some sick music, add some drums, and you just dance blindfolded, which means you have no concern for what other people are looking at you and watching. Like very rarely, do you ever get that opportunity to just dance, without anybody watching you. So you don't have that kind of thing. Hey, is this cool? Am I looking cool? Am I moving in the right way? That little voice that got entrained to us from the very first time we danced in public and everybody's looking at us. And that's where a lot of people had that, form of expression squashed. It's at some point someone said, "Oh, you can't dance." And then that part of them shriveled up. But this gives permission to just go out there and just give it hell, like really let it loose. And it's really a powerful embodiment of something really innate within us.
It is really our natural birthright to dance, to move. And our early ancestors knew that, and they used dance as, a way to heal themselves and to connect with deities. And a lot of times dance was a reflection of people's spiritual and religious beliefs, so to deny yourself of dancing is really, disconnecting from a part of yourself that is so natural and organic to how the body wants to move, So yeah, I love what Ashley does. It's a really great experience too, to take away your sight. So when you take away your sight, which is our main, one of the main senses, we really drop into, we go deep inside of ourselves. Our vision turns inward versus outward, and we really get to, how often do we really sit with ourselves and get to give ourselves permission? Our lives are so busy and so demanding. We're always rushing, but yeah, that particular format is really amazing for going inward and really feeling your body. So your senses become alive. And what does it feel like? What is your body? What are the emotions, that you're experiencing with different movements?
You hear about all these rituals, Sundance, and these different, all across the world, dance rituals that connect people to spirit or connect people to deities. A lot of times they'll bring masks and embody these deities. And, I knew this theoretically, and I could, kind of instinctively tell that it was going to be an effective methodology. Why would, so many cultures do it if it wasn't? Right. There's obviously it works, but I hadn't got to experience that. I mean, I've experienced euphoric states in dance, like that kind of trance that you can get from just being right in it, where you have just endless energy. It seems like, like your body's able to do things that it normally never could. I felt that, but not like a connection of sorts. And in that dance, they were playing a lot of what seemed, I don't know what type of rhythms, but it seemed like
global,
Latin American,
world.
Yeah. And that was cool, and we were vibing on that. And then they switched to one of my favorite groups, which is a Tribe Called Red, and played a song which is like more Native American drumming. And instantly I got transported to a vision where there was a circle of elders. And there's a circle of elders there, and I was on the outside, and they beckoned me in. And wow. I was immediately teared up, and I was like, I don't know if I can come in. I make so many mistakes. And that's what I said in my head. And they all just kind of warmly smiled at me and said, how do you think we got to be elders?
Right.
And then that was this like crazy vision that I had, like full, blindfolded, sober, just dancing. And I had this communication, maybe my imagination or maybe with, some spirits of the land there, just giving a really powerful message of, yeah, we got to be elders because we make mistakes, which was a really important lesson for me at that point, because something was coming up, some self-criticism about, myself and my path and the mistakes I've made and things like that. And this was just a great way to release it that moved through my body and out through this vision. And dance was the vehicle that got me there.
Yeah, it's very healing. And that sounds like a really profound experience.
It was.
Yeah. What happened when you went in? Did you go into the circle?
Yeah. At that point, I was free to, I was free to go in.
Right.
I'd released that, whatever that guilt was about not being welcome, and then just danced.
Right.
And everybody, all the spirits seemed to dance with me.
So the experience of liberation and freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's what I experience too when I dance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of been the theme of my life, pretty much is freedom and liberty, liberation. I think the indigenous dances, and when you said you connected to the rhythm, I've been trying to tap into what that essence is. What is it about, these indigenous dance forms that have been retained and survived, all of these years, our early ancestors, created this, our first humans were dancing, to pray for food, to pray for war, to pray for protection, for fertility, all of these aspects of our existence, were communicated through dance. And these rhythms are all in of itself are really powerful ways to open you up and just really break down any kind of walls or barriers, that you're carrying into the space or you walk around within your life. They just kind of open you wide up. So you have that possibility of being able to transcend, yourself and really tap into your authentic self. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been trying to figure out what is this essence? Like, why do people feel so different when they're not from the culture? I'm not from the culture. I've been immersed in the culture for, over 20 years, and I attend ceremonies and I do research, and I'm an ethnographer in that sense. I go into the communities and I integrate and immerse myself so that I have a real clear idea about how to express this form as an art form in the most authentic way, so that it pays homage to the culture and it evolves the culture in a positive way, because evolution, things evolve, things progress, so these forms are very important, that we continue dancing them and playing these rhythms so that they are maintained, because I really feel like, again, it's original form of medicine. The formula of most indigenous rhythms are based in a polyrhythm. Mm-hmm. So as the drums are playing, they're playing in different rhythms, and what I call polyrhythms, and which is the basis, I think, the gateway to really open you up into this transcendental state and the meditative state. And really what I feel ultimately is the backbone of the healing that happens. So when I talk about polyrhythms, many rhythms going on, so our bodies are naturally moving to the different rhythms of these, indigenous rhythms. So,
do you think it's
because? Did I lose you?
Do you think the polyrhythm has such a special value because it's kind of more than your rational mind can track?
Exactly.
Like, I know that from even playing around on drum kits and things like that. Like, as soon as you have your feet going one way, your arms going the other way, like left hand doing one thing, right hand doing one thing, right foot doing one thing, you can't think about it or you're done. Like,
exactly.
Game
That's
over.
A really good example.
Like, your body is not going to be able to do that. And so you have to get in this sort of flow state where you just allow you just trust your body to do it.
And it knows.
And it knows.
And it knows. And sometimes in dance, like it's, at first people have a hard time getting out of their heads, because we live here as a culture and we live in our head. So it's like, it's healing to get into your body and allow the body to tell the wisdom of the body, to tell the mind what to do. So it's about tricking the mind, really, so that the mind relinquishes control so that the body can then do what it naturally does. The body houses our intuition. It knows, I'm sure you've experienced this when you've had that gut feeling and you're just like, oh, this doesn't feel very good, but I'm going to do it anyway. I can handle it. You're right. Like, I can handle this. I can do it. I'm strong, and you keep, this just feels weird, Sure. And then, eventually.
And then there's the other way too, where the body is saying, I don't know about this. And you just have to mentally override,
right.
Like that could be an example of actually even sitting on the sidelines of dance. Maybe you want to do it, but there's this fear there and this fear's in your gut, and it's all of this stuff. And you just have to go and use that mental override tool and say, all right, here we go. Body, you're going to move.
Exactly.
And the body's like, no,
And it's about putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. You said that yourself. You're like, when you got, welcomed into the circle, you were stepping into the unknown. You didn't know what was going to be there. And that's what dance class is for me, is really, it's a playground for refinement, for learning. And, I'm always telling students, like, this is stepping into the unknown. You're doing something that, steps that are unfamiliar. It's like a little travel adventure. And that's why people like to travel so much, is that you put yourself outside your comfort zone and then you get a mirror to who you are.
Yeah.
And then you learn and you grow, and I'm like, well, if you don't get to go on a travel adventure, go to a dance class, find your local dance studio
and dance.
And just
like,
dance in your,
exactly. Dance. There's so many people who are out in a place that's playing good music and they just don't dance. Right. And I've found myself, throughout my life, I've realized, like, when I'm sitting on the sideline and there's, sometimes some apprehension to get in dance. I really don't have that anymore because I really love to dance. But
that's great.
But, throughout my life, I'd recognize these moments and I'd realize that always at the moment that first bead of sweat came down from me dancing, all of that fear and anxiety and anything I was worried about was gone. Like, I knew as long as I could get to the first sweat, like, I was good, So I used that to be like, all right, man, just whatever, do squats, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, just get to the first sweat and then you'll release it. And I think that's something good for people to think about. Like, if you're up there and just you get to that moment, it's that critical mass, the body will take over and it's going to be fun. It's going to be some of the best time you can have.
Yeah, and what I like about, like, Caribbean dance, the dance forms that I specialize in, which is Afro-Cuban, Afro-Brazilian dance, is that we're moving our body in its natural state. So it's natural to how the anatomy is, we're made to move. So we're not moving. Some other dance forms, you are actually moving against the natural anatomy of
like
your body.
Twerking?
Yeah, or high art like ballet, it's
right.
like, that's why, at you have to do it when you're young,
Sure.
People, so this form you can do for the rest of your life. I mean, my teachers are in their 90s, and they're still dancing. So it's a really great way. It's an accessible technique to really, again, just learn. You're really optimizing all the individual body parts and how the body parts move naturally on their own. So it's kind of fun because we're like, okay, everybody can just move their shoulders up and down. We can move our shoulders back or forward. But it's when we put that to time with another body part is when we create those polyrhythms.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets fun, because you feel like you're rubbing your head or, patting your head, rubbing your belly at the same time. But that's the space where you start to transcend.
Cool. Well, I want to do an experiment here because I have an instinct that we got two people here in the room that aren't big dancers, that aren't really big dancers. Here we have our podcast regulars, Brandon and Orlando. So let's if you guys would just we'll start with Orlando. Orlando, how often do you find yourself really dancing?
Like people watching or just like
just getting it, just really getting it.
Probably recently, like every day.
Yeah, nice. Look at me underestimating you.
Yeah.
You're dancing every day?
It's like run in the morning, morning, so I'm all excited to listen to Guns N' Roses. So I started axle dancing and get back to the apartment.
Axle dancing, nice.
Yeah.
Love the axle
So
rose.
it just ran. So yeah.
That's like a happy dance.
I somehow don't think you're axle dancing every day. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to call bullshit on you, but no. Okay. All right. You win. All right. You win, Lando. But Brandon, are you going to, how about you, man? How often do you find yourself dancing?
Maybe more like at weddings.
At weddings. So what is it about a wedding that like gives you the permission to dance?
You're with close friends. You're celebrating an important life event. I don't know.
Yeah. And how does it, so is there like a moment where you're like apprehensive about it and then you just like jump in? Or are you one of like the first on the floor kind of guy?
No, I'm not that type of guy. I'm more like the slow dancer.
You like the slow grooves.
Yeah. So
I can see that.
yeah, I can see that too. So have you ever just gotten out there and just fucking just giving it hell, just getting it, just moving around, just getting buck wild out there?
Not too often.
Not too often. How do you think it would feel if you did that?
There'd be some ice to break. There'd be some self-consciousness for a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably work through that eventually.
Yeah. So what's some advice, Kimberly, you can give somebody like Brandon, which is like the majority of people,
Right.
where, they'll do a little bit of this, what's in the comfort zone, but like some encouragement to get out of the comfort zone and in any kind of format, go get it. Because, there's obviously some intermediary steps before showing up to a dance class. Because even for me, who loves to dance class is intimidating as fuck.
Right.
So the intermediary steps where most people are just getting to the point where they can dance.
I would say, I would tell people that, to be open, to come in with an open mind, to experiencing something new, and just not to have a high expectation, just really start with the feet, and then work your way up the body. But and also once you get into the classroom, I think you'll realize like what an incredible support system the class is. I try to bring that element to my class where, everyone's supporting each other and there's no judgments, no judgments, no competition. It's really a safe zone for people to come.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I want to tell people is that it really is a very safe place.
Oh, it absolutely, no doubt is, I'm sure. But for Brandon in particular, there's no way we're getting him to a class like that. like the first, I think the intermediary step would have to be like dance with no mirrors around, period. Like, so there's nobody there, there's nobody home, there's nobody that can bust you. It's just you. That's just like
okay.
just like, and just get it. Like, don't think about like, man, I wonder how this looks. Am I making moves that'll look good or not look good? But just like dance for the sake of dancing purely with no other motivations. And that I think is as powerful a meditation or psychedelic experience or anything that you can do. Is like literally go in a room where you're not looking at yourself. Because as soon as you look at yourself, then you're projecting some other observer through the other side of the mirror and saying, does this look good?
Right.
Oh yeah, this looks good. I look good as shit right now. I'm getting it, But if there's a mirror, it's ruined. So you got to just
over.
get into a space where there's no mirror.
Close
good
your
music.
eyes. Maybe even close your eyes.
Yeah. Well, that also throws your balance off. So you might be falling around. So I say you can keep your eyes open, but the key is just nobody's watching you, including yourself.
Yeah.
And then just get it.
And really start off like slow. Do the slow groove. What do you say?
Just slowly
slowly move into it. Start off slow. No big, big gestures, and then as you get more comfortable in your body, start to wiggle the arms and the legs and the head, and until it's a full body experience.
So you're saying don't start off like I'm a man.
Well, someone who's gonna have hesitation to go into a dance class
What
might
if they
not
just
go
go
into
straight Chris Farley right out of the gate and just get it out of the system?
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
I would love that.
So slow to ramp up, or
If
start
you're
at Chris
timid.
Farley and taper it down.
Exactly. Yeah. Either end of the spectrum is good.
Yeah. It's funny watching kids dance, because kids will do, sometimes they'll just stomp their feet and, that's like so much for them to even contain. And then you see some gifted little kids that are just like, oh my God, I can't even do that.
Right.
You're killing it. But yeah, it's cool to see that expression of just like the body moving.
Right.
Some
Yeah. Kids
crazy
are our biggest
jitterbug.
teachers in terms of dance, and
Yeah.
that's what we've gotten away from the child within us. And that's why it's good to dance, is that we go back to that place of freedom where we're not so jaded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching kids dance.
Yeah.
I
It's
learned
always
so
fun.
much.
No
Yeah.
doubt. So let's say people wanted to connect with some, different types of music, besides putting Drake on or something like that. And, do you have any like musical recommendations of where they can go on iTunes or YouTube or whatever and get some music if they wanted to try this dance experiment?
Well, I'm biased to the traditional, like, indigenous rhythms of the Caribbean, Brazil. I mean, samba dance. Oh my gosh, how sexy is that?
Looks good when they do
and
it.
yeah, no, but everybody loves samba music. It's just so inviting and welcoming, and the culture is so joyful and open. I always say Brazil is like a big sponge, and they just like absorb so many world influences. They love everybody, and everybody loves them. Brazilian music is a great place to start and to experiment dancing.
You can't
to.
type in Brazilian music. So is there any like specifics?
Samba,
Maybe you could.
I like
Is there any
Ser Jorge.
All right,
I
you
like
might have to
samba.
spell that. For,
Seujorge.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
he's awesome.
Cool.
I love Ser Jorge. I love Caetano Veloso is one of the great samba or Brazilian music musicians. I love Ivete Sangalo. She's awesome. She's one of the more popular pop music. I love salsa music. There's so many great. I love rumba. Rumba is amazing. Los Muñequitos de Matanzas is one of my favorite rumba groups. But yeah, I'm kind of old school in that sense. So I like all the old world music.
What I found with the dancing that's more structured, like something like salsa, is I didn't have any kind of background of any kind of fixed pattern dancing like that, so learning it is a fun challenge for the mind, getting into that. But it really gets fun when you don't have to think about the steps anymore.
Right.
Like that's where it becomes free again. So people think, oh, it's too rigid, it's too structured. But that's only the case until you learn it so well that you open up your freedom once again.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like any sport, you have to, if you want to play tennis, you have to, repetition, practice. And that's the same thing with some of these dance steps, is that you have to practice, repetition. My ballet teacher says perfect practice makes perfect. But, that's a whole other level. But, but just to stop, you're right. That's high art level.
I have to be perfect in practice? What the fuck?
That's the high art level. But, in some of the social dances, like, salsa, it's really just about, learning the feet and then working way up your body. What I love about the Cuban style, salsa has many different styles, and Latin America is huge. And so every Latin American country is like, no, salsa came from my country. No, salsa came from my country. So, but what I love about the Cuban form is that they integrate so much of the indigenous dance form so that you just have a vocabulary. If you study some of the dances that I teach, then you get to incorporate that. You have more language to be able to express yourself with. And they use their whole body when they express. The Cubans are just like, they're so fun to watch. They have such mastery over their bodies. It's really inspiring.
Nice. I have a funny salsa story. So I started learning some very basic salsa on a cruise ship. It was a family cruise ship, and there's a blazing hot salsa instructor that taught me a few steps, and I got fired up. I was like, this is amazing. This is fun. I showed up every day to her class and like learned some basic stuff. So I get back to Austin. I Google salsa instructors, and there's this dude on the website with Ronald Reagan and like dance, showing him how to dance. I was like, oh fuck, he showed Ronald Reagan how to dance.
I could do it.
He must be legit.
Right.
So I go up to this guy's place, and he's like 25 years older than the picture. Obviously, should have made sense. He was with Reagan. I didn't put that together, though. I was like, okay, cool. And he's got this really low-cut shirt and just bushels of gray chest hair. Yeah. And a big gold coin necklace.
Rico suave, yeah.
And he just looks at me for a second. He's like, hi, I'm Aubrey here for the dance lesson. He's just eyeing me. He's like, okay. And then he takes me into his house, and I'm like, whoa. He takes me into his house, in his little dance studio in his house. And he turns on the music, and he says, let me see what you can do. I was like, okay. So I like, get the basic step going, and he's just looking at me, like just eyeing me. I'm like,
seem really
I don't
serious.
really know. I was used to having a beautiful girl that knew what to do, and I would just kind of follow along. I'm just doing it by myself. And then he turns the music off, doesn't say anything, and he comes up to me and goes, you think you can salsa? And I go, no, not really. I mean, like, he's like, that's right. You cannot salsa. You are shit.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
He's like, you are shit. I see now why you come with no partner, because no partner will dance with you because you are shit. I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. He's great. So I went and took dance with him for like another 3 or 4 sessions, just out of the sheer hilarity of it. He taught me some cool stuff, but eventually I didn't have a partner, so
they just break it down.
Yeah, he was old school. He was hardcore.
Yeah,
that was a funny experience.
That is
it's
hilarious.
Not exactly how you want it, right?
I don't. No, I'm kind of I'm not that.
You're not that guy. Yeah.
Not that difficult or hard on my students.
Yeah.
But I really commend you for, doing that and going, and not only going once, because that's kind of the hard part is just getting the motivation to go one time, but then going back after he said that. That's great.
Yeah,
but you must have really liked it.
I did like it. And I've been used to coaches that are like that. You just gotta kind of shrug it off. Yeah. So that, as far as coaches go, he was at least one of the more humorous of the ones. I've had some really bad ones. Funny how coaches can either be great or just disastrous.
Yeah. I think all my years of training in athletics, I have that coach way about me. And in dance class, one of my students like, Kimberly, you're more like a dance coach.
Yeah.
So, because when you're an athlete and you're working with a coach, they get really specific and they give you constant feedback. I mean, that's my experience of sports. Yeah. Is they're constantly going, you know what, why don't you try moving your elbow a little bit more back? Or, you need to do this with your body. And they get really specific and they're like, good. They give you good feedback and negative feedback too, right? And a lot of times dancing, I've noticed doesn't really, some of the, it's hard to get feedback actually in dance class. So I really like zeroing in on people and giving them really constructive feedback and stuff. So, it's a refinement process. You take it and run.
It's an art of how to do that too, to really encourage and not squash the joy out of it. I think that's a mistake so many people make. Like, I've stumbled on that show Dance Mom, and I think the chick that's on there trying to be the dance coach for these little girls is one of the worst human beings I've ever seen. Ever, like, period. Like, one of the worst human beings. It's like those girls are going to hate dancing when you're done.
Right.
Like, what a tragedy. You have someone who's really gifted and they're gonna hate it because you're a bitch and you're undercutting them and making them feel terrible for what they're doing. It's a really weird thing.
Right. And definitely not all dance is like that. And so I think it's really important to say that is just one person and not all dance teachers or dance experiences can be negative, and also dance is learned. I think that there's some people, even, just reframe back to sports and athletics, that there's some people that have a natural talent for things. But then at a certain point, you have to put in the work, right?
Of course.
And I think that about dance too. It's like, no matter what your skill level is, you can learn it. Mm-hmm. And with the right teacher and the right community, mm-hmm. And you just having the open mind, to explore something new. You can learn it, and that's part of the fun. It's the process, really. It's not really the end result of what you look like in that moment. It's the process and how you get from point A to point B. That's fun.
Yeah.
being in the present moment.
No doubt. I've seen for, my current partner, Whitney, dance is, I think, her medicine language. Like, that's what brings the best out of her. And I've seen that, repeatedly. So I think that's probably the case for, a lot of women. Like, that's something that's an innate medicine language that they have that maybe they're not, tapping into. And for guys, as I haven't been to many dance classes, but I know that whenever I do show up, it's everybody's stoked. That's like everybody's like excited, like, yay, a straight man here in the dance studio. Like,
we love our guys that come to class, and we also love the men that support the women who are dancing. And that's really important to honor the guys, that come to class, and they always get a lot of attention and get all loved up by the women. So
if that sounds good, everybody, then
Brandon,
go to your local dance class.
Orlando, come on. That's motivation right there. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, where can people find you? Where can they look you up? Go deeper.
I am all over the place, literally all over the place. But my website is KimberlyMiguelMullen.com, and I teach workshops worldwide and dance residencies, and also cultural arts immersions to Cuba. That's my latest thing. So I take groups of students to go study dance in Cuba.
Awesome.
I know.
You brought me back some amazing cigars.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I know. A little birdie told me you like cigars.
Yeah.
So you got to have some cohibas. And now it's legal to bring cigars back. So thanks to the embargo, partial embargo lift, we now get to bring a little bit of cigars and rum back with us. So,
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been great.
Thanks for having me, Aubrey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great
Much
to see
love,
you.
everybody. Go to Wearspace and check out the new orca shirt. It's sick. It helps support freeing the orcas from their slavery and captivity. So check that shirt out. It's Wearspace, WEARSPASE. And of course, onnit.com to get your human optimization on. You're about it, right?
Absolutely. I love that.
No doubt. Much love, everybody. Thank you so much. Peace.